You speak without thinking. Every day, dozens of times, words escape your lips that you immediately regret. Words that betray your secrets, expose your fears, and push away the people you care about most. You know this. Deep down, you feel the weight of every careless comment, every moment when you said too much or spoke too soon. But here's what troubles you even more. You've watched others, people you admire, people who seem to possess an inner calm and authority you crave. They speak differently. They choose their words like a master craftsman selects his finest tools. When they speak, others listen. When they remain silent, others respect that silence. You want to be that person. You want to be the one whose words carry weight, whose presence commands respect without demanding it. You want to move through life with the confidence that comes from knowing exactly when to speak and when to stay silent. I am Solomon, and I built the greatest kingdom in history, not just with gold and stone, but with the wisdom of knowing which words to speak and which to keep locked away. Today, I will share with you the 12 things that truly intelligent people never say. This is not about changing your vocabulary. This is about transforming who you are at your core. This knowledge has been buried for centuries, passed down only among those who understood that true power lies not in what you say, but in what you choose never to say. The moment you master these principles, you will notice how differently people treat you, how they lean in when you speak, how they seek your counsel instead of dismissing your opinions. But I must warn you, this path requires courage. It demands that you face the uncomfortable truth about how your words have been sabotaging your relationships, your career, and your inner peace. Are you ready to leave behind the person who speaks carelessly and step into the identity of someone whose words create rather than destroy? If you are truly ready for this transformation, then stay with me until the end. And if this message resonates with the person you know you can become, subscribe now. Because what I'm about to share will separate you forever from those who remain slaves to their uncontrolled tongues. Number 1. The story of the wise man and the young man. There was once a young man who could not stop talking. His words poured out like a broken dam, flooding every conversation with his opinions, his plans, his fears, and his boasts. He spoke to fill every silence, believing that more words meant more wisdom. But his relationships crumbled. His friends avoided him. His opportunities vanished. He had become a prisoner of his own voice, yet he could not understand why the world seemed to turn away from him. One day, exhausted by his own restlessness, he approached a wise man known throughout the land for his profound understanding of human nature. The young man expected a lecture, a series of rules, perhaps a book to study. Instead, the wise man looked into his eyes and said something that would change his life forever. I will teach you the greatest lesson you will ever learn, but first, you must live 7 days in complete silence, not one word. In return, I will give you one piece of wisdom each day that will transform how you see the power of speech. The challenge seemed impossible. 7 days without speaking felt like 7 years. But something in the wise man's eyes told him this was his only path to freedom. The first day felt like torture. His mind raced with 1,000 things he wanted to say, but he held his tongue. That evening, the wise man shared his first lesson. A secret shared is a secret destroyed. Guard others' confidences as you would guard your own life. The young man realized how carelessly he had betrayed the trust of friends, spreading their private struggles like seeds in the wind. The second day brought a different kind of awareness. His urge to announce every plan, every dream, every intention felt overwhelming. But the wise man's second lesson cut through his restlessness. The wise gardener does not announce which seeds he plants until they have grown into fruit. Your plans are sacred. Protect them from the harsh judgment of those who would kill them before they bloom. The young man understood how his constant declarations had invited criticism and doubt from others, weakening his resolve before he even began. By the third day, something remarkable happened. Without his voice to express every frustration, the young man began to notice how much energy he had wasted in complaints. The wise man observed his realization and offered the third lesson. Complaining is like drinking poison and expecting others to suffer. Your words shape your reality. Speak of problems only when you seek solutions, not when you seek sympathy. The young man saw how his constant complaints had painted his world in shades of misery. The fourth day brought a painful recognition. The young man remembered all the times he had boasted about his generous acts, seeking praise for his kindness. The wise man's fourth lesson struck his heart. True generosity blooms in silence. The moment you announce your kindness, it ceases to be kindness and becomes performance. Let your actions speak when your voice cannot. The young man felt the hollow echo of his own self-promotion and understood why his generosity had felt empty. On the fifth day, the absence of criticism felt strange. Without his voice to judge others, the young man began to see people differently. The wise man shared his fifth lesson. When you criticize others, you reveal more about yourself than about them. The finger you point outward has three pointing back at you. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. The young man realized how his judgments had built walls between him and the world. The sixth day brought a deeper silence. Without expressing every fear, the young man discovered that many of his anxieties lost their power. The wise man's sixth lesson resonated deeply. Fear spoken becomes fear multiplied. Fear faced in silence becomes wisdom. Your courage grows not when you announce it, but when you practice it quietly. The young man understood how verbalizing his fears had made them more real, more paralyzing. On the seventh and final day, the young man no longer felt the urge to flaunt his possessions or achievements. The wise man delivered his final lesson. A tree heavy with fruit does not need to shake its branches to prove its worth. Those who truly possess wisdom, wealth, or happiness need not advertise it. Their presence speaks louder than their words. The young man saw how his constant displays of success had actually revealed his deep insecurity. When the 7 days ended, the young man found something extraordinary. He no longer wanted to fill every silence. He had discovered the profound power that lies not in speaking, but in choosing carefully when to speak. His words, when they finally came, carried weight because they came from reflection, not impulse. People began to lean in when he spoke, because they knew his words were chosen, not thrown. This is the first great truth of wisdom. Silence is not empty space to be filled. It is sacred ground where thoughts take root and grow into words worthy of the air they disturb. Master this, and you master the foundation of all communication. Number 2, the power of words and impulsiveness. You have done it again. The words escaped your mouth before your mind could catch them. Now you sit in the aftermath, watching the face of someone you care about change from openness to hurt, from trust to distance. You want to take the words back, to reach into the air and pull them down like arrows that miss their mark. But words, once released, travel faster than regret. They find their target and leave wounds that time struggles to heal. This is the silent suffering of the impulsive tongue. Every day, millions of people destroy relationships, opportunities, and their own inner peace because they speak before they think. They mistake the first thought for the right thought, the loudest emotion for the truest feeling. They live as slaves to their impulses, wondering why their words create chaos instead of connection. True intelligence is not measured by how quickly you can speak, but by how wisely you choose your silence. The mind is like a vast library, filled with thoughts, emotions, and reactions. The fool speaks from the first shelf he sees. The wise person walks deeper into the library, examines different perspectives, and chooses words like a master craftsman selects his finest materials. Think of your words as arrows in a quiver. Once you draw the bow and release the arrow, it cannot be called back. It will either find its mark with precision or wound something precious by accident. The skilled archer does not shoot rapidly and hope for the best. He breathes. He aims. He considers the wind, the distance, and the consequences of his shot. Only then does he release the arrow, knowing it will serve its purpose. I once knew a merchant who lost his greatest trading partner because of 5 impulsive words. In a moment of frustration over a delayed shipment, he called his partner unreliable in front of other merchants. Those 5 words destroyed 15 years of trust and cost him a fortune that could have fed 1,000 families. The partner never spoke to him again, and the merchant spent the rest of his life wishing he had counted to 5 before speaking. But here is where your transformation begins. You are not condemned to be a prisoner of your impulses. You can learn to create space between feeling and speaking, between thinking and reacting. This space is where wisdom lives. In that pause, you gain the power to choose words that heal instead of harm, that build instead of destroy. When you feel the urge to speak impulsively, employ the ancient technique of the think filter. Ask yourself, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If your words cannot pass through all 5 gates, they are not worthy of leaving your lips. This is not weakness. This is the strength of self-mastery. Practice the sacred pause. When emotions run high, count slowly to 5 before speaking. In those 5 seconds, your rational mind can catch up to your emotional mind. Breathe deeply through your nose, filling your lungs completely, then release the breath slowly. This simple act sends a signal to your brain that you are in control, not your impulses. The people you most admire, those who seem to possess an inner authority and peace, have mastered this art. They speak like kings who understand that every word carries the weight of their kingdom. They pause not because they cannot think of what to say, but because they are choosing what deserves to be said. Remember this truth. Gossip is the poison that kills trust slowly. When you speak carelessly about others, you reveal more about your character than theirs. People will listen to your gossip, but they will never trust you with their own secrets. You become entertainment, not a confidant. You trade your integrity for momentary social currency that buys you nothing of lasting value. Socrates taught that we should be who we wish to appear to be. If you wish to appear wise, be wise. If you wish to appear trustworthy, be trustworthy. If you wish to appear thoughtful, think before you speak. Your reputation is built one word at a time, one conversation at a time, one choice at a time. From this moment forward, let your words be like rare coins, valuable because they are not carelessly spent. Master the pause, and you master your destiny. Number 3, honesty and integrity. The lie sits heavy in your chest like a stone you cannot dislodge. You told it to protect yourself, to avoid an uncomfortable conversation, to make yourself seem better than you are. But now, every time you see the person you lied to, you feel the weight of that deception growing heavier. You have become a guardian of false information, constantly worried that the truth will surface and expose you. This is the hidden burden that every habitual liar carries, a burden that grows heavier with each new lie needed to support the old ones. Lying is not just about deceiving others. It is about betraying your own soul. Every lie you tell creates a small crack in your integrity, and over time, these cracks weaken the foundation of who you are. You begin to lose track of what is true and what is fabrication. You start to believe your own lies, living in a prison built from your own deceptions. Your relationships become like houses built on sand. Trust is the bedrock upon which all meaningful connections rest. When you lie, even about small things, you are taking a hammer to that foundation. Each lie is a withdrawal from the emotional bank account you have with others. Tell enough lies, and you will find yourself emotionally bankrupt, surrounded by people who keep you at arm's length because they sense, even if they cannot prove, that you cannot be trusted. Consider the master craftsman who builds a magnificent cathedral. Every stone must be perfectly placed, every beam precisely measured, every joint carefully sealed. If the craftsman uses weak mortar in just one section, the entire structure becomes vulnerable. Your integrity works the same way. One area of dishonesty weakens your entire character, making everything you say and do suspect in the eyes of others. There was once a successful businessman who built his reputation on small lies. He exaggerated his achievements, inflated his wealth, and fabricated connections with important people. For years, these lies served him well, opening doors and creating opportunities. But lies have a way of finding each other, of connecting into patterns that eventually become visible. When his deceptions were finally exposed, he lost not only his business but also his family, his friends, and his self-respect. He spent his final years as a broken man, wealthy in lessons learned too late. The moment of transformation comes when you realize that the temporary comfort of a lie never outweighs the permanent damage it causes. Truth may hurt in the moment, but lies hurt forever. When you commit to radical honesty, you free yourself from the exhausting burden of maintaining false narratives. You sleep better at night. You look people in the eye with confidence. You become someone others can depend on. But wisdom teaches us that honesty without compassion is cruelty. There is a difference between brutal honesty and thoughtful truth. The wise person considers not just what is true, but whether the truth will serve a constructive purpose. Sometimes, silence is more honest than harsh words that will only cause pain without promoting growth or understanding. When someone asks for your opinion about something deeply personal, ask yourself, will my words help this person grow, or will they simply satisfy my urge to be brutally frank? If your mother asks if her cooking tastes good and it truly does not, you might say, "It could use a little more seasoning, but I appreciate the love you put into it." This preserves truth while honoring the relationship. Learn to master the art of diplomatic honesty. When faced with a situation where the complete truth might cause unnecessary harm, choose your words carefully. You need not lie, but you need not volunteer every harsh reality. There is wisdom in saying, "I need some time to think about that," instead of delivering an immediate judgment that might wound someone's spirit. Practice the discipline of making your word your bond. Before you make any promise, any commitment, any statement about yourself or others, pause and ask, is this absolutely true? Can I stand behind this completely? Am I prepared to stake my reputation on these words? If the answer is anything less than a resounding yes, remain silent until you can speak with complete integrity. Remember this eternal truth. The person who lies to others will eventually lie to themselves. The person who tells the truth, even when it is difficult, builds an unshakable foundation for a life of meaning and respect. Number 4, financial privacy. You cannot resist. When the conversation turns to money, salaries, or success, you feel compelled to reveal your financial details. Perhaps you want to impress others with your income. Perhaps you seek validation by comparing your wealth to theirs. Or maybe you believe that sharing your financial struggles will earn you sympathy and support. But each time you open your financial life to casual observers, you unknowingly invite judgment, envy, and manipulation into your world. The pain of financial oversharing reveals itself slowly, like poison working through your system. You begin to notice how differently people treat you once they know your income. Some suddenly see you as a walking wallet, approaching you with requests for loans or investment opportunities that benefit them more than you. Others harbor quiet resentment, believing you do not deserve what you have earned. Still others dismiss your problems, thinking that money should solve everything in your life. Money is one of the most emotionally charged topics in human society. It represents security, freedom, status, and power. When you reveal your financial details casually, you are not just sharing numbers. You are exposing your vulnerabilities, your priorities, and your deepest fears about worthiness and security. This information becomes a weapon that others can use against you, consciously or unconsciously. Think of your financial life as a private garden behind high walls. This garden contains the fruits of your labor, the seeds of your future, and the tools of your security. When you remove the walls and invite everyone to see inside, some will admire your harvest. Others will count your fruit and compare it to their own. Still others will notice which areas are barren and judge your gardening skills. A few will even try to take cuttings when you are not looking. I remember a talented architect who made the mistake of revealing his substantial income at a social gathering. He was proud of his success and wanted to share his joy with friends. But within weeks, his relationships changed completely. Former friends began asking for loans. His neighbors started treating him with a mixture of deference and resentment. Family members who had never shown interest in his life suddenly appeared with investment opportunities and sob stories. He learned too late that financial privacy is not about shame or secrecy. It is about protecting the peace that allows relationships to remain authentic. The transformation begins when you understand that financial discretion is not about hiding your success or your struggles. It is about creating space for relationships to develop based on who you are, not what you have. When people do not know your financial status, they must engage with your character, your ideas, and your personality. This creates deeper, more genuine connections. Warren Buffett, one of the wealthiest men in history, lived in the same modest house for decades and drove ordinary cars. He understood that flaunting wealth attracts the wrong kind of attention and corrupts the purity of relationships. His financial privacy allowed him to move through the world as Warren the person, not Warren the billionaire. When someone asks about your income, learn to deflect with grace and humor. You might say, "Enough to keep me out of trouble, but not enough to get into the really expensive kind of trouble." Or simply, "I am fortunate to be comfortable, thank you for asking." These responses acknowledge the question without providing ammunition for judgment or manipulation. Share financial information only with those who have a legitimate need to know and a proven track record of discretion. Your spouse, your financial advisor, your accountant, and perhaps your closest family members may need access to certain details. But your coworkers, casual friends, and social media followers do not. Be especially careful about social media displays of wealth. That expensive vacation photo, that luxury car post, that designer clothing selfie, they all broadcast financial information to hundreds or thousands of people, including those who may not have your best interests at heart. Remember that everything you post online creates a permanent record that can be used to assess your financial status for years to come. Learn to find validation and connection through means other than financial disclosure. Share your passions, your ideas, your experiences, and your values instead of your bank balance. Build relationships based on mutual respect and shared interests, rather than financial comparison and competition. The wise person understands this truth. Your financial life is like your physical body. While there is no shame in either, both deserve privacy and protection from casual observation. Guard your financial privacy as carefully as you guard your physical privacy, and watch how much more peaceful your relationships become. Number 5, social media and exposure. Every day, you reveal intimate details of your life to hundreds, perhaps thousands of strangers. Your location, your relationships, your thoughts, your vulnerabilities, all shared with people you have never met and may never trust in person. You post in moments of emotion, seeking validation and connection, but creating a permanent record of your life that can be used against you in ways you never imagined. This is the modern paradox of social media. The promise of connection delivered through dangerous exposure. The platforms encourage you to share everything, to live your life in public, to measure your worth by likes and comments. They profit from your oversharing, harvesting your personal data and selling it to the highest bidder. Meanwhile, you become addicted to the temporary high of social validation while slowly eroding your privacy, your security, and your authentic relationships. Social media has created a false sense of intimacy with strangers. You share details online that you would never share with casual acquaintances in person. Yet these posts live forever, creating a detailed map of your life, your habits, your weaknesses, and your patterns. Employers, criminals, and competitors can study this information to gain advantages over you that you never intended to provide. Your digital footprint is like tracks in snow, visible to anyone who cares to follow them. Each post, each photo, each comment creates a trail that reveals not just where you have been, but where you are going. Predators study these patterns. Thieves use location tags to know when you are away from home. Employers review your posts to judge your character and reliability. Your own words become evidence in legal proceedings, relationship disputes, and professional evaluations. A successful young lawyer learned this lesson the hard way. She regularly posted about her expensive lifestyle, her international travels, and her high-profile cases. She believed this enhanced her professional image and attracted better clients. Instead, it attracted the attention of criminals who burglarized her home while she was on a vacation she had documented in real time. It also caught the eye of opposing counsel, who used her posts to question her judgment and credibility in court. Her own social media became a weapon used against her. The path to digital wisdom requires conscious intention about what you share and why you share it. Before posting anything, ask yourself, would I be comfortable if my employer, my mother, and my future spouse all saw this? Will this post still represent who I want to be in 5 years? Am I sharing this for a healthy reason, or am I seeking validation for an insecurity? Create boundaries between your public and private life. Consider maintaining separate profiles for professional and personal use, with different privacy settings for each. Share achievements and insights that can genuinely help others, but keep your personal struggles, your location data, and your intimate relationships off the public stage. Read the privacy policies of the platforms you use, or at least understand the basics. These companies are not providing free services out of generosity. They are collecting your data and monetizing it in ways that may not align with your best interests. Adjust your privacy settings to limit who can see your information and how it can be used. Use strong, unique passwords for each account and enable two-factor authentication wherever possible. Your social media accounts contain years of personal information that could devastate your life if accessed by malicious actors. Protect these accounts as carefully as you would protect your bank account. Consider the digital legacy you are creating. Every post becomes part of a permanent record that your children, your grandchildren, and your future self will inherit. Are you creating a record of wisdom, growth, and positive contribution? Or are you leaving behind a trail of complaints, controversies, and poor decisions? Practice digital fasting regularly. Spend time away from social media to reconnect with your authentic self and your real-world relationships. Notice how differently you experience life when you are living it instead of documenting it. Pay attention to how much mental energy you recover when you stop constantly crafting posts and checking for responses. Use social media as a tool to serve your goals, not as a substitute for real connection and authentic self-worth. Share content that educates, inspires, or genuinely helps others. Use these platforms to build your reputation as someone thoughtful and valuable, not someone desperate for attention or validation. Remember this fundamental truth: the most powerful people in the world maintain strong boundaries around their private lives. They understand that mystery and discretion create more influence than exposure and oversharing. Master digital discretion, and you master a crucial skill for thriving in the modern world. Number 6. Emotional control in the face of provocations. Someone has just said something designed to hurt you, to anger you, to make you react in a way that will diminish you. Your blood pressure rises, your heart pounds, your mind fills with cutting responses that would devastate your attacker. Every fiber of your being screams for you to strike back, to defend yourself, to show them that you cannot be treated this way. This is the moment when your character will be revealed, not by what was said to you, but by how you choose to respond. The person who provokes you is rarely acting from a position of strength. Provocation is the weapon of the insecure, the frustrated, and the powerless. They cannot elevate themselves, so they attempt to drag you down to their level. They cannot create, so they try to destroy. They cannot build confidence in themselves, so they try to demolish confidence in others. Understanding this changes everything. When you react emotionally to provocation, you give your power away. You allow someone else to control your emotional state, your behavior, and your reputation. You become a puppet dancing to their tune, responding predictably to their manipulations. They push a button and you react. They pull a string and you move. This is not strength. This is the ultimate surrender of your personal sovereignty. Imagine yourself as an ancient mountain, weathered by countless storms but unmoved by any of them. The wind may howl, the rain may pound, the lightning may strike, but the mountain remains steadfast. It does not argue with the storm. It does not try to stop the wind. It simply endures, knowing that its strength comes not from fighting every disturbance, but from remaining unshakable in its foundation. I once witnessed a master craftsman whose apprentice, in a moment of frustration, publicly insulted his work and called him a fraud. The other apprentices waited for the master's response, expecting anger or retaliation. Instead, the master smiled gently and said, "You seem to be having a difficult day. Perhaps when you feel better, you could show me a better way to approach this technique." The insulting apprentice was immediately disarmed, his anger deflated by the master's refusal to engage in battle. Later, he privately apologized, having learned more from that moment of grace than from years of technical instruction. Your transformation begins when you realize that you have the power to choose your response to any provocation. Between the stimulus and your response lies a space, and in that space lies your freedom. You can expand that space through practice, creating room for wisdom to operate instead of allowing instinct to dominate. When someone tries to provoke you, employ the 30-second rule. Before you respond in any way, count slowly to 30. This gives your rational mind time to assess the situation and choose a response that serves your highest good. Often, you will discover that no response at all is the most powerful choice. Visualize yourself surrounded by an invisible shield that deflects negativity. When harsh words are thrown at you, imagine them bouncing off this shield and returning to their sender. This mental technique helps you maintain emotional distance from attacks that are not really about you, but about the attacker's own pain and insecurity. Respond to provocation with unexpected kindness or humor. This completely disrupts the provocateur's strategy and often reveals the pettiness of their attack. You might say, "I can see you feel strongly about this. Would you like to discuss it constructively?" Or, "You seem upset. Is there something I can help you with?" This approach often transforms an enemy into an ally. Practice the art of selective engagement. Not every provocation deserves a response. Not every insult merits a defense. Not every challenge requires acceptance. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away, leaving your attacker to fight with the air while you preserve your energy for worthier pursuits. Learn to find the grain of truth in even unfair criticism. This does not mean accepting false accusations, but rather asking yourself if there is any lesson to be learned from the feedback, even when it is delivered poorly. This approach transforms every attack into a potential opportunity for growth. Remember that your reputation is built more by how you handle provocation than by how you handle praise. People are watching to see if you will maintain your composure under pressure, respond with grace under fire, and demonstrate the kind of character they want to associate with. Master this truth. The person who can remain calm and thoughtful in the face of deliberate provocation possesses a power that no attacker can touch. They become uncontrollable by others and therefore truly free. Number 7. Anger management. Your anger erupts like a volcano, spewing words that burn everything in their path. In those moments of rage, you feel powerful, justified, righteous in your fury. You believe your anger gives weight to your words and strength to your position. But when the heat subsides and the damage is surveyed, you discover that your angry words have destroyed more than they have built, wounded more than they have healed, and pushed away the very people whose understanding you most desperately needed. Anger itself is not evil. It is a natural human emotion that signals when something important to you has been threatened or violated. But anger expressed through harsh words is like fire used carelessly. Fire can warm a home or burn it down. It can cook a meal or consume a forest. The difference lies not in the fire itself, but in how it is controlled and directed. When you speak from anger, you are speaking from your smallest self. Your perspective narrows. Your wisdom disappears. Your ability to see the larger picture vanishes. You become completely focused on your pain, your offense, your need to be right. In this state, you cannot access empathy, creativity, or the kind of strategic thinking that actually solves problems. Your angry words reveal more about your lack of self-control than about the person or situation that triggered your rage. Think of anger as a wild horse that has thrown its rider. The horse is powerful and fast, but without direction, it runs blindly toward cliffs and thorns. The skilled rider does not try to kill the horse's spirit, but rather to harness its power for purposeful movement. Your angry energy, when properly channeled, can fuel great achievements, drive necessary changes, and motivate extraordinary efforts. But when it controls you instead of you controlling it, it becomes a destructive force that damages everything you care about. There was once a gifted leader who built a thriving business through decades of hard work and wise decisions. But he had a terrible temper, and when provoked, he would unleash verbal attacks on his employees that left them humiliated and demoralized. One day, in a fit of rage over a minor mistake, he verbally destroyed his most valuable team member in front of the entire staff. That employee, who had been like a son to him, quietly resigned the next day and eventually started a competing business. Within 3 years, most of his best people had followed, and his empire crumbled. His inability to control his tongue in moments of anger cost him everything he had built. The moment of transformation comes when you realize that the strong person is not the one who explodes in anger, but the one who remains in control when everyone else loses theirs. True strength is not displayed through the volume of your voice or the harshness of your words, but through your ability to respond to provocation with wisdom, clarity, and measured action. When you feel anger rising within you, use it as a signal to pause, not to attack. Anger is your emotional system telling you that something needs attention, but that attention does not have to come in the form of immediate verbal retaliation. Take deep breaths, count to 10, or even excuse yourself from the situation until you can respond from wisdom rather than rage. Channel your angry energy into constructive action. Instead of attacking the person who triggered your anger, focus on addressing the underlying problem. If someone has treated you unfairly, document the incident and address it through proper channels. If a situation is unjust, work to change the system rather than just complaining about it. Transform your fire into fuel for positive change. Learn to express your concerns without attacking the person who caused them. Use statements that focus on the behavior rather than the character. Instead of saying, "You are irresponsible and inconsiderate," say, "When appointments are missed without notice, it creates problems for everyone involved." This approach addresses the issue without declaring war on the relationship. Practice the art of delayed response. When something makes you angry, tell yourself that you will address it, but not immediately. This commitment to eventual action prevents you from feeling powerless while giving you time to craft a response that actually serves your goals rather than just venting your emotions. Develop physical outlets for angry energy. Exercise, walk, or engage in activities that allow your body to process the biochemical surge that comes with anger. This helps clear your mind and restore your emotional balance before you engage in important conversations. Remember that relationships are like bank accounts. Every positive interaction makes a deposit, while every negative interaction makes a withdrawal. Angry words are like writing emotional checks that your relationship cannot cash. Make too many withdrawals, and even the strongest relationship will become bankrupt. Master this eternal truth. The person who can remain wise and measured in moments of anger possesses a strength that can move mountains. They become someone others turn to in crisis, trust with their deepest concerns, and respect for their unshakable character. Number 8. Mockery and empathy. You have done it countless times. Someone makes a mistake, reveals a vulnerability, or simply appears different from what you consider normal, and the words slip out before you think. A cutting joke, a sarcastic comment, a mockery that gets a laugh from others and makes you feel clever, superior, witty. But in that moment of cheap entertainment, you have torn a small piece from another person's dignity, and you have revealed something ugly about your own character that you probably prefer not to acknowledge. Mockery is the refuge of the insecure. It is how small people try to feel big, how weak people attempt to appear strong, how those who lack genuine wit try to seem clever. When you mock others, you are not demonstrating superiority. You are advertising your own deep-seated need to diminish others in order to feel better about yourself. Every mocking comment is a confession of your own inadequacy. The person you mock may laugh along, may pretend not to care, may even seem to enjoy the attention. But mockery leaves invisible wounds that heal slowly and leave permanent scars. That awkward teenager you ridiculed may carry your words for decades. That colleague you humiliated in a meeting may never again feel safe being vulnerable around you. That friend whose dreams you mocked may lose the courage to pursue them, forever wondering if they are as foolish as your joke suggested. Consider the difference between a gardener and a vandal. Both have power over growing things. The gardener uses that power to nurture, protect, and help plants reach their full potential. The vandal uses it to destroy, to cut down, to prevent growth. Your words hold the same power over human spirits. You can choose to be a gardener of souls or a vandal of dreams. Every interaction is a choice between building up and tearing down. I knew a teacher who was beloved by thousands of students over his long career. His secret was simple. He never made jokes at a student's expense. When students struggled, he found ways to encourage them without diminishing their dignity. When they made mistakes, he corrected them with patience and kindness. When they were different or unusual, he helped them see their uniqueness as a gift rather than a flaw. His classroom became a sanctuary where people could risk being themselves without fear of ridicule. Decades later, former students would return to thank him not for what he taught them about his subject, but for what he taught them about human dignity. Your transformation begins when you realize that true humor brings people together rather than dividing them. The highest form of wit does not punch down at those who are vulnerable, but finds joy in the absurdities of life that everyone can relate to. When you learn to laugh with people instead of at them, you become someone others feel safe around, someone they trust with their authentic selves. When you feel the urge to make a joke at someone's expense, pause and ask yourself, what am I really trying to accomplish here? Am I seeking genuine connection and shared joy, or am I trying to elevate myself by diminishing someone else? Is this joke revealing my cleverness or my cruelty? Will this moment bring us closer together or create distance between us? Practice the discipline of uplifting humor. Look for opportunities to make people laugh about universal human experiences rather than individual failings. Share funny stories about your own mistakes rather than highlighting others' shortcomings. Develop the kind of wit that makes people feel better about themselves and about life, not worse. When someone mocks you, resist the urge to retaliate with mockery of your own. This only escalates the cruelty and diminishes you both. Instead, respond with grace, with self-deprecating humor, or simply with silence. Your refusal to engage in the mockery game often exposes the emptiness of the attack and elevates you in the eyes of witnesses. Learn to defend others when they are being mocked, especially when they cannot defend themselves. This takes courage, but it builds the kind of character that attracts genuine respect and loyalty. A simple "that's enough," or "let's talk about something else," can stop the mockery and show everyone present what kind of person you are. Apologize sincerely when you realize you have hurt someone with your words, even if it was unintentional. Acknowledge the pain you caused, take responsibility for your choice of words, and commit to doing better. This kind of humility often transforms relationships and models for others how to handle their own mistakes with grace. Surround yourself with people who build up rather than tear down, who find humor in life's joys rather than in others' pain. The company you keep shapes the person you become. If you want to develop genuine wit and lasting charm, spend time with people who possess these qualities authentically. Remember this fundamental truth: the person who needs to mock others to feel good about themselves will never feel truly good about themselves. But the person who consistently treats others with dignity and respect builds an unshakable foundation of self-worth and becomes someone others naturally want to be around. Number 9. Broken promises. The words escape your lips so easily. "Of course I'll help you move." "Absolutely, I'll be there for your presentation." "Don't worry, I'll have that finished by tomorrow." "Yes, I promise I'll call you back." In the moment, saying yes feels good. You want to be helpful, reliable, the person others can count on. But as the commitment date approaches, reality sets in. Your calendar is full. Your energy is depleted. Other priorities have emerged. Now you must choose between honoring your word or protecting your convenience. Too often you choose convenience. You make excuses. You reschedule. You simply disappear, hoping the person will forget or understand. But they do not forget and they do not understand. They remember that your word means nothing, that your promises are like checks written on an empty account. With each broken commitment, you make a withdrawal from your reputation bank, and eventually, people stop believing anything you say. A promise is not just a statement about the future. It is a revelation of your character in the present. When you make a commitment, you are telling the world who you are and what your word means. When you break that commitment casually, you are announcing that your comfort is more important than their trust, that your convenience matters more than your integrity. Think of promises as sacred contracts written not on paper, but on the foundation of human relationships. Every time you honor a commitment, you add another stone to the structure of trust that connects you to others. Every time you break a promise, you remove one of those stones, weakening the entire foundation until it can no longer support the weight of meaningful relationship. Your broken promises create a ripple effect that extends far beyond the immediate disappointment. When you fail to show up for a friend's event, they not only lose your support, but they also lose faith in their ability to judge character. When you miss a deadline at work, your colleagues not only have to scramble to cover for you, but they also learn not to depend on you for future projects. When you break promises to your family, they not only feel let down, but they also absorb the message that they are not worth your effort to keep your word. I once knew a man who was brilliant, charming, and talented, but completely unreliable. He made grand promises to everyone he met, painting beautiful pictures of what he would do for them, how he would help them, what amazing things they would accomplish together. People were initially drawn to his enthusiasm and confidence, but over time, his pattern became clear. His promises were like soap bubbles, beautiful to look at but dissolving at the slightest touch of reality. Eventually, no one took him seriously anymore. His talent became irrelevant because no one trusted him to use it on their behalf. The transformation begins when you realize that saying no honestly is infinitely better than saying yes dishonestly. When you decline a request because you know you cannot fulfill it properly, you are actually showing respect for both the request and the requester. You are being truthful about your limitations rather than creating false hope that will lead to disappointment. Before making any commitment, practice the discipline of realistic assessment. Look at your calendar, your energy levels, your other obligations, and your honest motivation. Ask yourself, can I fulfill this promise with excellence, not just adequate effort? Do I genuinely want to do this, or am I just saying yes to avoid an uncomfortable conversation? What will it cost me in time, energy, and resources? And am I truly willing to pay that price? Learn to make smaller, more specific promises that you can definitely keep, rather than large, vague commitments that sound impressive but are difficult to fulfill. Instead of promising to help someone anytime they need it, offer specific help. I can help you move on Saturday morning from 9 to noon. This clarity protects both of you from misunderstandings and unmet expectations. When you must break a promise due to truly unavoidable circumstances, communicate immediately, honestly, and with a specific plan for making it right. Do not wait until the last minute. Do not make excuses. Do not minimize the impact on the other person. Acknowledge the disappointment you are causing, take full responsibility, and offer concrete alternatives or compensation. Build your reputation one kept promise at a time. Start with small commitments that are easy to honor, and gradually take on larger ones as you prove to yourself and others that your word has weight. Each promise you keep makes it easier for others to trust you with bigger requests and more important responsibilities. Practice under-promising and over-delivering rather than the reverse. If you think a project will take you 3 days, promise it in 4 days and deliver it in 3. If you can donate $50, offer $25 and surprise them with the extra. This approach builds trust and creates positive surprises instead of disappointments. Remember this eternal truth. Your word is the currency of your character. Spend it wisely, honor it completely, and guard it carefully. The person whose promises can be trusted becomes someone others seek out, depend on, and reward with their loyalty and respect. Number 10. Religious beliefs and respect. You sit in conversation with someone whose faith differs from yours, whose understanding of the divine follows paths you have never walked, whose sacred texts speak languages your soul does not recognize. Something inside you bristles. You feel compelled to correct them, to challenge their beliefs, to point out the flaws in their theology. You want to prove that your way is the right way, that their devotion is misguided, that their centuries-old traditions are somehow inferior to your own understanding of truth. This impulse to diminish others' spiritual beliefs reveals not the strength of your own faith, but the weakness of your character. When you mock someone's religion, dismiss their sacred practices, or belittle their relationship with the divine, you are not defending truth. You are advertising your own spiritual insecurity and intellectual arrogance. You are declaring that your understanding is the only valid one in a universe vast enough to contain infinite approaches to the sacred. Religious belief touches the deepest parts of human experience. Our search for meaning, our need for connection to something greater than ourselves, our desire to understand our place in the cosmic order. When you attack someone's faith, you are not just challenging their ideas. You are assaulting their sense of identity, their source of comfort in suffering, their framework for making sense of life's mysteries. Think of humanity's spiritual traditions as a magnificent garden where different flowers bloom in their own seasons, each contributing unique beauty and fragrance to the whole. The rose does not mock the lily for its different shape. The oak does not condemn the pine for its evergreen needles. Each plant draws from the same soil, reaches toward the same sun, and contributes to the garden's overall splendor. Diversity of belief is not a problem to be solved, but a gift to be treasured. I once hosted a gathering where a Christian minister, a Jewish rabbi, a Muslim imam, a Buddhist monk, and a Hindu priest shared a meal and discussed their different approaches to serving the divine. Rather than arguing about whose path was correct, they spoke of the common values they shared: compassion, service to others, the pursuit of wisdom, and the cultivation of inner peace. Each learned from the others, and their differences became sources of mutual enrichment rather than division. Your spiritual maturity is measured not by your ability to prove others wrong, but by your capacity to find wisdom and beauty in traditions different from your own. Every religion contains insights into human nature, practical wisdom for daily living, and time-tested methods for developing character and finding peace. When you approach other beliefs with curiosity rather than judgment, you expand your own understanding and often discover truths that enhance your own spiritual journey. The transformation begins when you realize that defending your faith does not require attacking someone else's. Your beliefs become stronger when they can coexist peacefully with different perspectives, not when they must be protected from any challenge or alternative viewpoint. Confidence in your own path allows you to appreciate the journeys others are taking without feeling threatened or diminished. When someone shares their religious beliefs with you, listen with genuine interest rather than preparing your rebuttal. Ask questions that come from curiosity rather than skepticism. Try to understand not just what they believe, but why those beliefs bring them comfort, guidance, and meaning. You may discover insights that enrich your own spiritual understanding. Learn to separate the institutional aspects of religion from the personal spiritual experiences of believers. A person's individual relationship with the divine may be beautiful and authentic even if you disagree with some aspects of their religious organization. Focus on the person in front of you rather than debating abstract theological positions. Practice finding common ground rather than emphasizing differences. Most religious traditions share core values: treating others with kindness, caring for the vulnerable, seeking truth, practicing forgiveness, and striving to become better people. These shared values provide a foundation for mutual respect and meaningful dialogue. When discussing spiritual matters, speak from your own experience rather than making claims about absolute truth that others must accept. Say, "In my experience," or "my faith teaches me," rather than "the truth is," or "you should believe." This approach shares your perspective without dismissing theirs. Defend others' right to practice their faith peacefully, even when their beliefs differ from yours. Religious freedom is not just about protecting your own right to worship as you choose, but about protecting everyone's right to seek the divine in their own way. Stand against discrimination and prejudice regardless of whether it targets your own tradition. Remember that some of history's greatest spiritual leaders found wisdom in traditions other than their own. They understood that the divine is large enough to encompass many approaches, wise enough to speak through different cultures and traditions, and loving enough to meet people wherever they are on their spiritual journey. Master this profound truth: the person who respects others' sincere spiritual seeking, regardless of its form, demonstrates a depth of character and breadth of wisdom that attracts respect from people of all faiths and opens doors to relationships and opportunities that would otherwise remain closed. Number 11. Confidentiality in relationships. Someone has trusted you with their deepest secret. In a moment of vulnerability, they opened their heart and shared something they have never told another soul. Perhaps it was a childhood trauma that still haunts them. Maybe it was a mistake they made that fills them with shame. It could have been a fear that paralyzes them or a dream they are afraid to pursue. They chose you as the guardian of this precious, fragile information because they believed you were worthy of their trust. Now, in another conversation with different people, you feel the temptation to share what you know. The secret would make a perfect example to illustrate your point. It would entertain your current audience. It would demonstrate how much others confide in you, proving your importance and trustworthiness. The words hover on your lips, eager to escape. This is the moment when your character will be tested, when you will discover whether you are the kind of person who builds trust or destroys it. When someone entrusts you with confidential information, they are not just sharing facts. They are placing their reputation, their relationships, and their emotional well-being into your hands. They are betting their vulnerability against your integrity, hoping that you value their trust more than your temporary desire for social currency or conversational ammunition. Breaking confidence is like taking a sledgehammer to a cathedral that took decades to build. The trust that person invested in you, cultivated through countless interactions and carefully observed character traits, can be destroyed in a single moment of careless speech. Once broken, that trust can rarely be fully restored. Even if they forgive you, they will never again feel completely safe sharing their inner world with you. Think of confidential information as sacred fire entrusted to your care. This fire can warm and illuminate, but only when it is properly contained and protected. If you allow it to escape your guardianship, it can quickly spread and burn down everything the person has worked to build. Their relationships, their reputation, their sense of safety in the world. I once knew a woman who built her social status by collecting and sharing secrets. People were initially drawn to her because she seemed to know everyone's business and was willing to share juicy details about mutual acquaintances. But over time, people began to realize that if she was sharing others' secrets with them, she was certainly sharing their secrets with others. One by one, people stopped confiding in her. Her social circle shrank as people recognized her as untrustworthy. She became isolated, surrounded by shallow relationships built on gossip rather than genuine connection. Her hunger for social currency had cost her everything she truly valued. The transformation happens when you realize that being trusted with secrets is not a burden but an honor. It means people see something in your character that makes them feel safe. It means they believe you possess the strength to carry their burdens without being crushed by them, the wisdom to offer counsel without judgment, and the integrity to protect their vulnerability from those who might exploit it. When someone begins to share confidential information with you, clarify the boundaries immediately. Ask if this is something they want to remain completely private, or if there are circumstances under which it might be appropriate to seek help or advice from others. This protects both of you from misunderstanding about expectations and responsibilities. Develop the discipline of compartmentalization. When you know sensitive information about multiple people, keep that information separate in your mind and never allow details from one person's confidence to influence how you treat or judge another person. Each confidence exists in its own sacred space, protected from contamination by other knowledge or relationships. Create physical and mental barriers to accidental disclosure. Avoid discussing confidential matters in public spaces where you might be overheard. Be careful about sharing information even with your spouse or closest friends unless you have explicit permission. Remember that alcohol and emotional stress can lower your inhibitions and make you more likely to share things you normally would keep private. Learn to redirect conversations that are moving toward gossip or inappropriate disclosure. When others try to pump you for information about someone else's private business, change the subject, deflect with humor, or directly state that you do not discuss others' personal matters. This builds your reputation as someone who can be trusted with sensitive information. Practice the art of supportive listening without the need to reciprocate with your own dramatic stories or others' confidences. Sometimes the most helpful response to someone's vulnerability is simply to listen, acknowledge their courage in sharing, and offer your continued support without feeling compelled to match their disclosure with revelations of your own. When you must seek advice about how to help someone who has confided in you, do so without revealing identifying details or specific information that could compromise their privacy. Focus on the general principles involved rather than the specific circumstances. Remember that maintaining confidences is not just about keeping secrets. It is about creating safe spaces where people can be vulnerable, authentic, and real. It is about building the kind of relationships where growth and healing can happen, because people feel secure enough to examine their lives honestly. Master this fundamental truth. The person who can be trusted with secrets becomes a refuge in a world where most people feel isolated and misunderstood. They attract deep, meaningful relationships because others know their vulnerabilities will be protected, their struggles will be supported, and their trust will never be betrayed for temporary social gain. Number 12. Suppressing complaints and dissatisfaction. Every day you fill the air with your dissatisfactions. The weather is wrong, the traffic is terrible, your job is boring, your boss is unreasonable, your neighbors are inconsiderate, the government is corrupt, the prices are too high, the service is too slow. Your complaints flow like a river of negativity, poisoning every conversation and polluting every relationship with the toxic waste of your perpetual dissatisfaction. You believe you are simply being honest about life's problems, that you are bonding with others through shared grievances, that you are justified in expressing your frustrations because they are real and valid. But what you do not see is how your constant complaining is reshaping your brain, training it to scan constantly for problems rather than solutions, for darkness rather than light, for reasons to be miserable rather than opportunities to be grateful. Complaining is like drinking poison and expecting others to suffer. Every complaint you voice reinforces neural pathways in your brain that make you more likely to notice problems and less likely to see possibilities. You become a victim of your own negativity, trapped in a cycle where each complaint makes you more sensitive to things worth complaining about. Your world shrinks to the size of your grievances, and your relationships become dumping grounds for emotional waste. The people around you begin to associate your presence with negativity and drain. When they see you coming, they brace themselves for another litany of problems, another recital of everything that is wrong with the world. You become someone people avoid rather than someone they seek out. Your complaints, meant to elicit sympathy and agreement, instead push away the very connections you need to find happiness and meaning. Think of your mind as a garden and your words as seeds. Every complaint you speak is planting seeds of negativity that will grow and multiply, eventually choking out any positive thoughts or experiences that try to take root. But when you choose to speak words of gratitude, possibility, and solution, you plant seeds that will bloom into joy, opportunity, and genuine contentment. I remember a merchant who lost his most profitable trade route due to political upheaval. He could have spent his days complaining about the injustice, lamenting his losses, and boring everyone with stories of his past prosperity. Instead, he quietly began exploring new markets, developing different products, and building relationships with traders from distant lands. While his competitors wasted energy complaining about the changes, he adapted and eventually built an even more successful business than before. His silence about his struggles and focus on solutions made him wealthy while the complainers remained poor. Your transformation begins when you realize that complaining is not problem solving, it is problem rehearsing. Every time you voice a complaint without taking action to address it, you are practicing helplessness instead of developing competence. You are training yourself to be a victim rather than a victor, a passenger rather than a driver in your own life. When you feel the urge to complain, pause and ask yourself, is this something I can control or influence? If the answer is yes, channel your energy into action rather than words. If the answer is no, Practice acceptance and redirect your attention to areas where you do have power and influence. This simple shift transforms you from a complainer into a problem solver. Develop the discipline of the gratitude ratio. For every legitimate concern you must voice, commit to expressing 3 things you genuinely appreciate. This practice rewires your brain to notice positive aspects of your experience and provides a more balanced perspective for others who interact with you. When you must address real problems, focus on solutions rather than just describing the difficulties. Instead of saying, "The traffic is always terrible on this route," say, "I think we should explore alternative routes or adjust our departure time." This approach positions you as someone who contributes to solutions rather than just cataloging problems. Practice the art of strategic silence about minor irritations. Not every inconvenience needs to be shared. Not every frustration requires verbal expression. Learn to process small dissatisfactions internally, letting them pass through your awareness without giving them the power of speech. Surround yourself with people who model positive communication patterns. Avoid chronic complainers who will reinforce your negative tendencies. Seek out people who face challenges with resilience, who speak more about possibilities than problems, and who inspire you to focus on what you can create rather than what you cannot control. Use physical exercise, journaling, or meditation as outlets for processing frustration and stress without burdening others with your emotional waste. These practices allow you to acknowledge and release negative emotions without poisoning your relationships or reinforcing negative thought patterns. When others complain to you, resist the urge to match their negativity with your own complaints. Instead, listen with empathy and then gently redirect the conversation toward solutions, positive aspects of the situation, or entirely different topics that are more constructive. Remember that your words create your reality. When you consistently speak about what is wrong, broken, or disappointing, you train your mind to see the world through that lens. When you choose to speak about what is working, improving, or possible, you literally reshape your experience of life. Master this life-changing truth. The person who can face life's inevitable challenges without polluting every conversation with complaints becomes a source of strength and inspiration for others. They attract opportunities, relationships, and experiences that match their positive energy, creating an upward spiral of genuine satisfaction and meaningful success. You stand now at the threshold between 2 versions of yourself. Behind you lies the person who spoke without thinking, who scattered words like leaves in a storm, who believed that more speech meant more wisdom. Ahead of you stands the person you are becoming, someone who understands that true power flows not from the volume of your voice, but from the depth of your silence. Every conversation from this moment forward becomes a choice. Every word you consider speaking passes through the filter of wisdom you have built. You feel the weight of each syllable before it leaves your lips, the responsibility that comes with the power to heal or to harm, to build or to destroy. Your tongue has become like a master sculptor's chisel, no longer chipping away carelessly at the marble of human connection, but crafting something beautiful, something lasting, something worthy of the relationships you hold sacred. The old you spoke to fill silence, the new you speaks to create meaning. In quiet moments, you now hear what others miss, the unspoken pain behind someone's brave smile, the hidden dreams beneath their casual words, the trust they offer when they share their vulnerabilities with you. You have become a sanctuary in a world of noise, a place where people feel safe to be authentically themselves. This transformation ripples outward in ways you cannot yet imagine. Your children will learn to speak with intention because they watched you choose your words carefully. Your colleagues will seek your counsel because they know you listen more than you lecture. Your friends will trust you with their deepest secrets because you have proven yourself worthy of such sacred gifts. The path of wisdom is not a destination you reach, but a way of being you embody with each breath, each choice, each sacred pause between thought and speech. If this resonates with the person you are becoming, join this community of conscious souls who understand that true strength whispers while weakness shouts. Words create worlds, and you are now the architect of yours.